Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Juliana O'Rourke. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications here at the Better Business Bureau, serving Southern Piedmont and Western North Carolina. We're going to give a couple more minutes for people to log on, and then we will go ahead and get started. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you now.
Can you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us here today. My name is Juliana O'Rourke, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications here at the Better Business Bureau, serving Southern Piedmont and Western North Carolina. Even throughout these unprecedented times, we are continuing to serve the community and will be a vital asset in providing support and guidance. One of the ways we're offering support is by partnering with industry experts and hosting webinars such as this one that will focus on helping businesses get through this pandemic. These webinars are free for you as an accredited business, and because this topic is so incredibly important, we have gone ahead and extended the invitation to our non-accredited businesses as well. We are incredibly appreciative of Sharon Harvey with the SBA for being here today to present this vital information on economic injury disaster loans, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program. We will let Sharon present, and then we will address any questions at the end. However, feel free to submit your questions during the presentation in the question box, and we will try to get through all of them at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, Sharon, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over. And again, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing this information.
Thanks, Juliana.
Yes, and should be all yours.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
The SBA screen?
It just looks like a GoToWebinar screen.
Okay, I gotta pull it off of this screen, I guess, and pull it down to this one.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, I got a couple screens I'm working off of here today.
No problem.
I need to, no, I don't want to leave the webinar. I'm trying to make it bigger so I can see it. There we go, okay. Come on. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Glad you could join us today. And as this is an ever-changing, some of the things that we're doing, of course, for those of you that have been following this, which I'm sure you all have, the legislation all passed Friday, got signed Saturday, and we tried to start implementing everything on Monday. Well, with government, we actually have to write standard operating procedures. Then once we write the procedures, then now the banks have to do what they need to do. So just want to make you aware of some of the things are ever changing as they're just getting tweaked. But the programs are the programs themselves. As Juliana said, my name is Sharon Harvey. I'm the Senior Area Manager for Western North Carolina. I have 25 counties, but actually during the disaster, if I should reach out to someone in any of the other states or any other counties, I am more than happy to work with you. You can reach me at my email at sharon.harvey@sba.gov. And then there's my cell number, which is 202-805-8947. I ask that if you give me a call and you get my voicemail, it is a cell phone, so it's easier for you to send me a text and let me know what, who you are and how to reach you and return your call so that we can have a conversation. Good, that didn't work well. Okay, where's my mouse? Come on, little mouse. It's on the other screen. I should be a pro at these. I've been doing them all week. Come on, where's my mouse? On the other screen. There it is. Okay. So what are the economic injury loans? Who can apply? I want to make sure that everyone understands that it doesn't matter how small your business is. If you are a business owner, if you are a you're a hairstylist, you're a barber, you're a massage therapist, I want you to know that these economic injury loans actually apply to you as well. Of course, you're not going to need up to the $2 million, but you still have stopped or had an interruption in your work and your business. Of course, in North Carolina, we are an outdoor, our biggest, industry is outdoors. So if you have a small bed and breakfast or you're in a hotel, even our manufacturers or our sports vendors, and I don't want to forget our restaurants and our souvenir shops. I want you all to realize you are all small businesses and we are here to help any and all. The one big thing is you need to make sure that on any applications that you submit in dealing with the U.S. Small Business Administration, that you actually have a physical presence in any declared disaster. Typically, we actually have counties or certain disasters, but because this is a U.S.-wide and territory-wide, you're all able to apply for the disaster. And we just need to make sure you're using a physical address and not a P.O. box address. Why can't I get this little mouse to stay? We're supposed to stay. I'm going to explain to you what the economic injury loan is and the advanced loan. I want to start by saying, regardless as to if you want a loan, think you can or cannot afford a loan, the advanced loan is available to everyone. That is what you may be hearing people referring to as the $10,000 grant or the forgivable loan. The advanced loan is in fact available to all small businesses. You just have to apply. You apply through the same portal as you would for the economic disaster injury loan. So I just want you to know and be able, and you know, I'm going to depend on everyone on the call to make sure that they let any friends, family, other business owners know that if they have a business, they can apply for the forgiveness loan. And it's actually through the sba.gov/disaster assistance. And I'll go through that with you in a minute. But I want to make that clear to everyone that you are eligible, whether you want a loan, don't think you can afford a loan, you know, have the credit score to get a loan. This is a forgiveness loan. So the only thing I need you to do is to apply. Let me see if I can pull up the actual page. I tried to save it so you can see what it looks like. I want to make you aware of a few things. Is please make sure that you are in the https sba.gov, because there have been some imposters. There's an SBA help out there and some other ones that I want to make sure that when you go on to fill out your application, that you are in the secured site with the https sba.gov. Trying to close some of these windows so I can see. Okay, it's not going to let me do anything. But to start the application process, you actually need to click here. So when we click on the portal, it's going to bring up disaster assistance loan. It's going to take you about 15 minutes to fill this out. Hopefully it'll open. I just want to show you what it looks like and what they're asking. But until it opens, it's real simple. And this is the actual simplified version that you're going to use for the advanced forgiveness loan and the economic injury disaster loan. This is actually what starts the momentum for the economic injury disaster loan. When it comes up, it's going to ask you, what type of entity are you? The application is for everyone, so there is a little box that you check for sole proprietor. Then there's all the other ones, whether you are a corporation, a LLC, even there's a non-for-profit box and or franchise, and there's a few others. So you actually will just click on the box that you that represents your small business. The next set of questions it's going to ask you is what's your business name? So you would use your business name. It's going to ask you for the EIN number. If you are a sole proprietor and you use your social security number, you're going to use the social security number. And then it's going to ask you who you are. And then that's when you fill out who you are, your social security number, your address, and then it's going to ask you for your annual sales from last year. And then it's going to ask you your cost of goods. So if you are not sure of how to calculate your cost of goods, you can reach out to me, the state of North Carolina, of all the other states, depending on where you are. The SBA has resource partners, whether that's SCORE, your Women's Business Center, your Small Business Development Centers, your Small Business Technology Development Centers, or if you have any, your banker, someone can help you if you're one of the smaller businesses and aren't really sure of how to estimate cost of goods sold. You'll put those numbers in. It's going to ask you a few other questions about non-for-profits. There's like 4 or 5 of those. If you are not a non-for-profit, just hit in 0 and continue. It's going to ask you some questions on some other personal questions that you just need to answer them truthfully. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to put in your checking account and your routing number. This way, this is how they're going to deposit that advanced loan, that forgiven loan. And once you actually submit your application, it will come up on the screen. It will give you an application number. I ask that you take a picture of that with your phone, print it out, or write it down. It will have a phone number. You can actually use that to call that number to check and see, where you are in the process. I will say you will need to be patient because there are 29 million small businesses across the U.S. and the territories. So there's a lot of people calling to check on what's going on with their applications. So I would say if you do not have a deposit in your account, day 4 or 5, then that's when you would, pick up the phone and just try to inquire as to what's going on with your automatic deposit. And like I say, that's for any small business is eligible for the up to $10,000. So you will have to apply. So then after you have applied and you've gotten your automatic forgiven loan deposited, then you will be then SBA will start correspondence with you in regards to the economic injury disaster loan. At that time, that's when you decide, I do want a loan, I do not want a loan, and moving forward. So that's when, if you do not want a loan and you're not interested, then you let them know you're no longer interested in a loan. You are only applying to get the forgiveness loan, and then your file will be closed out. If you're interested in an economic injury disaster loan, then that's when you will be assigned a caseworker, and they will then ask you to send them additional documentation, whether it's your taxes or a personal statement. That's when you will start to interact and move forward with the application process. I do want to let you know.
Really quickly, did you want to bring up your presentation again? Because I think we're just seeing the website.
I am. I'm getting ready to get out of this. I was trying to wait for it, but that's why I walked everyone through what the questions were. So when they saw them, because some people were having issues as to how to answer those questions. So
okay, just wanted to make sure.
That's fine. So yeah, so once that application process is through, then that's when you will be contacted about moving forward with the application process. But I do want to let everyone know, you've heard a lot about the Paycheck Protection. I am going to cover that, but you will have to make that decision whether you want to do the economic injury loan or the Paycheck Protection, because you cannot do them both. So then moving forward, so after you filled out the application, and submitted it, taken the app, so then we will move on to what's next, or what happens after that. The next thing is are the terms. What are the terms on the economic disaster loan? For small businesses, that's at a 3.75% interest, and you can actually stretch that term out to 30 years. For those that are in the nonprofit world, that's a 2.75% interest rate, and once again, you can still stretch that out for 30 years. And this is, it's basically working capital, and you must be a small business, under 500 employees, or depending on what your NAICS code is. And I can assure you that probably everyone on this call is a small business. If you don't understand what I mean by a NAICS code, I would be glad to help you figure out if you are a small business after this call is over. And these were, like I said, these loans are for working capital. They may be used for fixed debt, also your payroll, accounts payable, and other bills that you cannot pay due to the disaster. Just wanting you to know that you cannot use these funds to refinance an existing loan, nor can you go out and maybe start expansion or to do something else that you were thinking about because you now have these loan proceeds. So they're strictly to make you to continue to have you operate as if there was not a disaster present. How does the SBA loan work? How is it different from any other type of loan? Basically, the economic disaster loans are not from a bank. They're actually from the U.S. Treasury. So these loans, you will be working directly with the SBA and one of their loan officers. We already went through how to walk through the application, but there is the link once again. I want you to be aware of, because there are so many things out there, I want you to make sure that you're on a site. Once again, that is an SBA site. Please watch out for the scams because we have been alerted that they are out there, and there is never a cost to apply for an SBA loan of any type, which is what the scams are doing. They're trying to get you to pay them to assist you with the application process. There is no obligation to take the loan. My hope is that, people are processing the loans, and then, as they say, at the end of the month, beginning of May, we can hopefully go back to our lives, and then you'll decide, you know what, I really don't need a loan, or maybe you don't need as much. That's something that you can talk to with your loan officer or your case officer, because just because you're offered a loan, you do not have to take that amount, or you can actually take a lesser amount if that's what you decide that you need. And for the loan, 25,000 or less is unsecured. So that's just, 25,000 that you don't have to worry about them needing you to sign a personal guarantee or put up any collateral. So 25,000 or less is an unsecured loan. Want to make sure that you understand that for those that may have an existing SBA disaster loan, I want you to feel to understand that those disaster loans have been deferred until December 18 of 2020, meaning you will not have to make your first payment on any existing disaster loan that you have until January of 2021. That could be a loan that you received during for hurricanes 2 years ago. There was the drought, there was the flood. So any loan that you have that is a disaster loan, I just want you to know and understand that that loan is now in deferment and you do not have to contact anyone. Me and my little mouse. I won't dwell a lot on this, but the ineligible entities are basically any farmers or ranchers. Any farmer or rancher that's needing assistance, we are redirecting them to USDA for assistance. We are assisting religious organizations, but just so that you understand, we're not giving you a loan because you're not able to collect tithes and offerings, but we understand a lot of religious organizations have schools or daycares or some other type of not-for-profit or 501c3 that they run out of the church. So wanting you to know that those are eligible. It's just that we cannot offset any tithes and offerings that you're not receiving. And we also do not support gambling or casinos or racetracks or anything like that. And here's the, I missed the slide, I'm sorry. The payroll protection. So we have the economic disaster injury loan, which you apply for through the SBA portal, which is through Treasury and the SBA. The Paycheck Protection is the one that's made, right now we're made the news as of Monday afternoon and current. This is out of the CARES Act, where the $349 billion has been allocated to help businesses to continue to keep their employees on payroll and to help keep their businesses open. There's a calculation that's being used at either $10 million and or your amount of payroll at 2.5 times. In this, there is a window, an 8-week window, where you are actually forgiven. I like to use easy numbers. Say, for example, you receive a $100,000 loan. You have $10,000 in expenses every month. 8 weeks of that will be forgiven, which is your payroll, your utilities, and your rent, and any of your mortgage interest. 8 weeks of that will be forgiven, and then your loan is now reduced based upon the amount of those particular 2 months. So you received a $100,000 loan, just say those 2 months, the total is 10, so now you're down at only having to finance $90,000 of this loan. That is at 5%, and it's actually deferred by 6 months. And the whole goal is for you to keep your employees on the payroll and to keep your business moving. I know there's probably some questions because in the operating procedures. It's got questions on how many people does that include, because we're looking at 2019 numbers. Just want to let you know that that is something that they are now looking at to figure out how are we actually doing that. And the Paycheck Protection Program is administered by SBA approved lenders. So you already have to be banking with someone that is an SBA approved lender. You asked, how do I know if my lender is an SBA approved? I believe you will get these slides, or there's the link. You can go to the SBA North Carolina District Office website, and you can find this link, and you can click on it, and it'll bring you up all of the banks, financial institutions, and credit unions that have the authority to do 7A loans. I can let you know at this time we are continually to activate those banks that have been inactive and haven't done an SBA loan in a while. And we have had banks that have reached out to us so that they can get signed up for the process. So you may reach out to your bank today and they may tell you they don't do SBA loans and they're in the process. And then, you'll reach out to them, and then 3 or 4 days later, they'll tell you they do now have the authority to do SBA 7A loans. So I just wanted to let you know that if your bank's not on the list, I would just call them and ask them, hey, are you going to try to do this program, or how are we going to move forward with getting assistance? The other program we have is the Express Bridge Loan, and it is actually $25,000 with less paperwork that you can actually apply for. And it pretty much, you can actually, this is the bridge because of the time for the EIDL and the Paycheck Protection are going to be at least 30 days. The bridge loan has a faster turnaround, which is about 5, and it actually helps you during the time when you are needing that $25,000 to bridge you from the time that you receive your larger loan. So I just wanted to let you know that the bridge loan is available, and it's up to $25,000, and it has to be, you can repay it out of your economic injury disaster loan once it's actually approved. So I just wanted to let you know that that program is out there as well. I've talked about getting assistance from our resource partners. We also have a link on our website. So if you are not familiar with who they are, if you have not used them, we are trying to update all of our partners on all of the programs that we have and the constant changes that are happening. Once again, they're our SCORE, our Women's Business Center. We have a Veterans, a VBOC, a Veterans Business Outreach Center. Our local chambers, we're making sure that the small business centers and the SB TDCs are aware of our programs and the changes as soon as they come out and as soon as they are updated. So I actually sort of went over that quickly because I know there's been a lot of information that's you probably have already obtained, just trying to figure out how to ascertain it or figure out which direction you should go. I will tell you that some of the information out there is correct, some of that is incorrect. So I would like to be able to answer your questions correctly, and if I don't have the answer because it's a moving piece, I will assure you that I will get your information and find you the actual answer that you are seeking. So Juliana, if you would like to open up the question portion, then we can start that piece as well.
Yes, so we already have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get through as many of them as we can, but it seems like the biggest question we have right now is people don't seem to understand what is the difference between the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Program. So I guess a brief overview, the difference between the two, and then also, can they apply for both?
I will answer that question. First of all, you cannot not apply for both.
Okay.
That's a decision. Once you get all the information, that's the decision you're going to have to make for yourself. But I will say, for the $10,000 forgiveness with the economic injury loan, you'll get that money up front. if you decide that you're going to use the Paycheck Protection Plan, they will just reduce your loan by that amount, saying you've already got that as a cash, as a upfront payment. So your loan will be reduced by that amount, whatever it is that you get. Now the difference is the economic injury disaster loan. Once again, we're talking about businesses that have one employee or businesses that have up to 499 employees. So everyone's need is going to be different. So for that small business that is maybe a sole proprietorship or has one or two employees, that has shut down. But they still have vendors that they need to pay, or they have, they have rent that they still need to pay. The economic injury disaster loan may be a better fit for them. Where the paycheck protection comes in is if you have more employees that you are trying to keep working, employees that you want to keep on the payroll, instead of having them apply for unemployment, and maybe depending on, what they make, they may only be getting half of what they would have made working for you. A lot of businesses are bringing employees back and just having them do things that are outside of their normal, I guess I would say normal work assignment or work duties. And it has the piece in there that is forgiven for the 2 months. So once again, I would encourage you that if you are looking for the payroll protection, that one actually goes up to $10 million. So it's someone that needs, a bigger loan, has more employees that they're trying to keep working, and or that they need to have them working based on the industry that they're in. So the paycheck protection is for, a larger business, and then the economic injury loan is for one of those, a smaller business that may be a sole proprietorship or has one or two employees. And once again, the economic injury loan, you can get $25,000 or less on that one. So once again, you need to figure out which is best for you. If you go on the Treasury website actually tells you what documents you need for the Paycheck Protection Plan, and a lot of the other executable details that are with it. But as I said, there are some things that are in it that I've been told we need to pull back on explaining. And I don't know if one of your questions may be in consideration of, we were told it was a 10-year term, and then they said it may be a 2-year term. So just want you to know that that is one of the things that we're trying to get clarification on. Is it 10 or is it 2? But I can tell you that the economic injury loan is up to 30 years. So that is, those are some of the differences between the two programs.
Okay. And what if you own two businesses? Can you apply for both companies?
You can apply for both companies if you have two EIN numbers.
Okay, so two
EINs, or if you have two separate distinct set of books. You can, you can't have, I'm doing businesses, I'm, ABC Corporation, and then I'm doing businesses A and B, but you still have one set of books that you're, the way that you report your taxes. But if you are in fact reporting taxes under two separate companies, under two separate EIN numbers, or have two separate filings, yes, you can submit for both.
Okay. And do you have any idea when the loans are starting to process?
I can say that the advance loan, those, the up to $10,000 forgiveness loans have already started. People have started getting automatic ACHs on Monday. So those forgiveness loans are actually going out. I would say the economic injury loans, you should, depending on when you actually filled out the application, whether you were in the old application process a week and a half ago. I will say that if you were in the process a week and a half ago and you got all your documents uploaded and you had a application number, you have nothing to worry about. If you had started an application and you're still trying to figure out, I need to upload some information, or I keep going to the portal and I keep getting an error, the portal is down and you actually need to fill out the new simplified application. And then for those who haven't filled out an application at all, then you need to fill out the simplified application, whether you are a sole proprietor, or any other entity, and or a non-for-profit, as all of those are in the same application process.
Okay.
And then for I would say for the Paycheck Protection, because the banks are still trying to figure out how they're going to process these loans, I would say a loan under the Paycheck Protection will probably be at least another 30 to 45 days before you receive any funding.
Okay. What about if a individual did not take a picture of their application after they submitted it, so they don't know their application number? How are they able to verify that their application has been received?
For anyone that is in that situation, here's the phone number. It is 1-800-659-2955. Once again, that's 800-659-2955. That is our customer service portal. If you do not have your application number, they're going to ask you who you are. They'll probably ask you a couple of security questions like your social security number, or pull some things off of your application to verify who you are. And then they can tell you where you are in the portal and to make sure that your application was actually received and verified. I will let you know that there are a lot of callers on the line, so don't be surprised if you call and your number 200 or 300. I've been telling people just to be patient. Put your phone on speakerphone, charge it up, and then continue to do whatever it was that you were doing prior to making the call. Your call will be answered, but it just depends on the magnitude of the questions of the people that are before you.
Okay, and let's see. A lot of these are asking, specifically about if they could apply for both. But then the next question is, what is the difference between charitable and nonprofit?
If you have a 501c3 that is exempt from taxes, and then what is the other one? I had it, and then we here we go. One is that you are IRS exempt from tax returns, and or you are a non-for-profit that has articles of incorporation or bylaws or charter. Those are the ones that can actually apply.
Okay.
So you actually need to be tax exempt for a 501c3, or you have to be a non-for-profit with articles of incorporation or bylaws or charter.
Okay. And if a small business has already requested for a grant through another agency, will they still be approved for these forgivable funds through the SBA?
Yes, they will.
Okay. And if approved for these funds, can a small business apply for a growth expansion loan through SBA at a later date?
Yes, you can. And I will say that if you are, if anyone is or was in the process of thinking about a loan or had a loan in the process, currently there is a deferment. And then once the deferment is over, SBA will be paying the first 6 months payment and interest on any new 7A loan.
Okay. And then I do see a lot of questions. We are recording this webinar and we will be sending it out afterwards, so you will have all the information. There is a question about what if we've already laid off employees, or should we lay them off? Should we not lay them off? I'm not sure if that's a question you can actually answer.
Honestly, that is not a question that I can answer. I mean, as a business owner, you're going to have to, I mean, that's one of the things you have to figure out. For example, I've talked to a lot of restaurants and they said, you know, although that they are still open with takeout so that their employees can stay working, they're not making any money, but they want to do it for the community. I've talked to some of those that said, I just can't afford to continue to take the loss. So that's one of the things that as a business owner, you're going to have to figure out. But I will say that is one of the reasons why you have the payroll protection. So if you laid people off, but then if you can bring them back to work, and then now you have a source of payment for them, that is the reason why that is one of the reasons for the payroll protection plan. So you have laid them off, but you can apply and you can bring them back and now have a source of income to pay them.
Okay. And someone asked that they have a small business located in their home. Does that count as a physical location or not?
That counts as a physical location with using your home address. Yes, it does. If that's where you actually perform the type of work that you do, yes.
Okay. And when they're looking at headcount, is it full-time employees and is it based on 30 hours per week?
It is, I will say that there are a lot of calculations out there, but they're looking at full-time employees. And then there's another portion of the loan, which I'm sorry, I've seen it, but I haven't read it all to understand it. But then there is another equation for full-time employees and part-time employees with a certain weekly hourly number, and also that you can't have any employees that make over $100,000. They're exempt from your equation.
Okay. Will these loans impact credit score or are they credit dependent?
You know, when we first started off, they were pretty much credit dependent. Now, the payment ability is, a lot of those have been loosened and or waived. The only thing I can say is contact your bank for the payroll protection and have those conversations. A lot of these, from what I'm understanding, a lot of these portions will be, currently there's pieces that are forgiven. I think they're looking at other pieces that they're looking at to forgive at a later date. And then in the economic injury disaster loans, that's based upon a score that looks at your score, your repayment ability, and some other things. So it's not just credit score driven. And no, they are not going to be recorded to the credit bureau.
Okay. And what if my current bank isn't an SBA bank? Does that mean I can't get a payment or a Paycheck Protection Program loan?
You need to contact them because, like I say, there are a lot of them that are scrambling trying to fill out the paperwork so that they can be, and or I've been told that originally you had to be a member of, you had to be a customer of an SBA bank, but I've been told that some banks are trying to help you regardless, as if you were already a customer there. So it's going to be a matter of you trying to find someone. You know, as I said, you can go on the list, the SBA website, and you can, you know, see who's on there, see who may be close to your area, and just start the dialogue with them, because a lot of them just want to help get the small businesses and get us back to where we were, if that can even happen.
So since we're talking about the PPP loan, one of the questions is, can you use the 12 months ended March 31st, 2020? And if so, what support can be used to give to the bank?
Can you repeat that one again, Juliana, please?
Yeah, for the Paycheck Protection Program loan, can you use 12 months ending as of March 31st, 2020? And if you can, what support can be used to give to the bank? So I'm not sure if they're asking supporting documentation or kind of what.
No, The 12 months is based on 2019. Well, up
Okay.
until January 31st, 2019. And that's why I said you can go on the Treasury site and it'll actually tell you what documents. And unfortunately, I'm referring you to Treasury because I believe their site's more detailed than the SBA site.
Okay. If you take a 7A loan for the payroll protection plan, do you have to take a loan for the full amount of payroll, or can you take a smaller amount that would just cover a few months worth?
Well, I mean, that's a conversation you'll have to have with your lender, but the way that it's written, it is to keep your, once again, there's another mathematic equation of how many people you had on payroll versus how many you have now. There's a 25% number that they're looking at, and the goal is to keep those people on the payroll until all of this is over, which none of us know when that is.
Okay. For these loans in general, are 1099 contractors considered an employee?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And for the Paycheck Protection Program, if we hire additional headcount now, can that extra cost be forgiven for 8 weeks?
Now that one, I'm not sure of.
Okay.
Because it's to, I would refer them to the bank, but if that, I would think they would count if that position was available in 2019 and say they were just now replacing that person, say the person quit or they fired the person, that those funds were still allocated and or being used in 2019.
Okay.
Now, if it's a new position, that I'm not sure of. But if they are replacing someone that they did have on the payroll and or those funds were allocated, they just didn't have a person at that time, I would think that person would be part of the overall equation.
Sure. If I have an application for an economic injury disaster loan, but it has not gone through, can I withdraw that and apply for the Paycheck Protection Program instead?
Well, what you will do is, as I said, the economic injury loan is tied to the advance loan. Once you receive the advance loan, which is the forgiven up to $10,000, then the SBA will move forward with working with you on your economic injury loan. At that time, when they reach out to you to start that process, then that's when you would tell them, you know, you're looking at the Paycheck Protection and you just wanted to close out your file, because the only way to get the advance is to do the simplified application. So at that time, you would just let them know that you weren't interested in the economic injury loan, but you were pursuing the Paycheck Protection. So long as you do not move forward with paperwork, you are fine.
Okay. And does a person who has long-term rentals, but their tenants can't pay rent right now, qualify for the grant?
That actually qualifies for the advance loan, which is the $10,000 forgiven, and it also applies under the economic injury disaster loan if you have rental properties and are not able to collect rents.
Okay, and let's see. It seems that there's a lot of questions in regards to what's forgiven and how is that determined?
The forgiven include, well, for the $10,000, up to $10,000 that's forgiven is basically they've given you $10,000. It's supposed to cover 6 months of payroll, utilities, rent, and or if it's a mortgage, and some debt. And at this point in time, I haven't got a clear definition of what is some debt. So in both the forgiveness portion, that's what it includes. There will be no sort of reporting on the up to 10. Now in the payroll Paycheck Protection Plan, those numbers are recorded. So you will have to report, and everything will have to match. And if it does not, then that's the only recourse to owners, is that the funds have to be used for authorized purposes. But in the forgiveness piece, there's no sort of reporting that will have to be done. And then there's no taxes that will be assessed at a later date. So this is strictly a forgiveness to help your business move forward or to help your business recover.
Okay. When calculating the 2.5 times monthly payroll, may we include our payroll taxes and required insurances such as general liability, commercial auto, professional liability, those types of things?
Yes, you can.
Okay. And if we are in a service industry, what do we put for cost of goods sold in the economic injury disaster loan grant application?
So you would use, the first piece is your, what did you make that year? And then your cost of goods sold include your rent and lease, your utilities, any inventory that you may have that is just sitting there and not moving. And that's basically your estimate of your cost of goods sold, or any other things that you need to add in there that you would pay on a monthly basis.
All right. And are we eligible for either of these if our business has lost money last year?
Actually, they're looking at that as a average. If it's 1 year following a profitable year, that is something that will probably have some sort of dialogue. But if you have 2 years with no 2 years in the red, then we're being told that that's something that because as far as the loans are concerned, we don't see you as being able to repay those, but you're still eligible for the advance loan, which is the forgiveness portion.
All right. And I don't know if this will be a question you can answer, because I'm not sure that anybody can answer this, but will funds run out at any future date for any of these loans?
Yes, they will. That's why as soon as I call them, they're all the talking heads, whether that's Congress, whether that's the news media. For the payroll protection, I believe there was 349 billion put in that. I can't remember how much was in the forgiveness loan and or the economic injury, but at some point they will run out. That's why they were talking about they were getting ready to now go back and do Part C. Because they know that, you do the simple math and there's just not enough money.
Sure. This one is a little more specific. There is a business that has been deemed as essential and they're allowed to stay open at this time, but they have employees that are self-quarantined due to compromised immune systems. Can they still qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program to keep them on the payroll and keep them employed? Yes,
because they were on the payroll. Your business is considered essential. And the law requires them to self-quarantine, and our hopes and our blessings are that after that 14, 15-week period, they're fine and they're now able to come back to work.
Okay. We utilize a temp to hire service. Can those expenses be included in a request for the loan?
The only with the temp to hire, so long as those positions are already allocated or have been allocated in 2019, you can move forward with adding those into the loan. Because as we all know, workforce is becoming a challenge to everyone. So if your budget had those positions in it in 2019, and you just weren't lucky in finding them, you can, your statement now is, we've got all these people out of work. Now maybe you can, you can find someone to fill that position. But if you had those numbers allocated in your 2019 forecast, you can use those numbers.
Okay. And I think we kind of briefly discussed this a little bit already, but can you apply for the loan if employees are on unemployment so that you can get them back to work?
Yes, you can.
And can you check the status of the $10,000 assistance loan?
You can check that once again. I would say give it 4 to 5 days after you apply. And then if you don't see an automatic deposit, then still continue to call the 1-800-659-2955.
Okay. Can farms still apply for the $10,000 loan as a small business, or do they need to specifically go through the USDA for all assistance?
They need to go to USDA for all assistance.
And briefly, I guess, kind of just go over this a little bit more, the difference between the economic injury disaster loan and the express bridge loan.
The express bridge loan is up to $25,000, which is an express loan, which is because typically express loans are closed in 5 days. So this will bridge you between the time that you stopped operations or your business declined up until the 30-day window about that it will take you to get either the economic injury loan and or the 30 to 45 days it's going to take you to get your payroll protection or maybe any other loan that you've applied for that's not an SBA loan. But the bridge loan is a quicker loan, but it is only up to $25,000.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, we have a lot of questions, so I'm trying to kind of
fine.
get through all of them. Is all the income of employees making over $100,000 not eligible, or can you count their salary up to $100,000?
No, that position, that person is excluded.
Okay. Somebody asked just to confirm the Paycheck Protection Program funds won't be available for about 30 to 45 days with the possible exception of the $10,000.
Correct. The $10,000 is a forgiveness loan, so there's no paperwork. I mean, there's no requirement other than that you're a small business and that you submit the application. And the payroll protection, I am saying that it's going to be 30 to 45 days because the banks are still not, they're still trying to go through and get their systems acclimated, get the applications. They're transitioning tellers, they're transitioning people from tellers to loan officers. So they've probably got another 2-week window where they're trying to get people up and running so that they can even process these applications. So that's why I'm estimating it's going to be at least a 30 to 45 day window.
All right. And the SBA personal financial statement in the application appears to have a problem with the formula where it says NAN is the total. Is there a trick to getting that formula to work? Not sure if you would know that.
I'm not sure, and if they're actually filling if they're filling those forms out, they need to refer back to whoever they're dealing with as their case manager and or their loan officer.
Okay.
Because they should have contacted them with the name and with the phone number and or an email.
Okay. For new business that started at the beginning of the year, what loan would apply?
Juliana, do you know if it's like January 1?
I think that's what she's referencing, that it would have started January 1st, 2020.
Probably the best thing for them would be, of course, to apply for the advanced forgiveness loan. And then the economic injury would probably be their best guess because we don't have a lot of no one has a lot of financials to go off of. So they would, be eligible for that, but probably at a very low minimum.
Okay. If I realized that I had made a mistake in the application after listening to this, will they contact us or can we contact you? or contact the SBA to make a correction?
You need to contact the 800 number at 800-659-2955. And I've had small businesses relay two different messages. One was whoever they talked to was able to make the changes. Some other businesses have said that when they called, they were told that you will be contacted, or if you will be contacted before anything is done, and you will can make those changes then. Unfortunately, that's a question we've sent up, and I still don't have an answer as to which one is correct.
Okay.
But still start with that 800-659-2955, because all those processes are done in Fort Worth, Texas, so I can't even see the application.
Okay, so it sounds like if you have a lot of very specific questions, contacting this 800 number is going to be your best bet at this point.
Well, I would say if you've already filled out the application, that's going to be the only place you can get an answer. But if you have an answer on, if you still have questions on some of the operating procedures, or if you're getting, because I'm getting questions from banks. So if you're getting, you can always use the SBA as a resource, always use the bank as a resource as you're filling out the application. So you can still use us to try to help, decipher some of the information that's out there. But if your application has been submitted, the only way to ask questions about it is to call the 800 number.
Okay. We still have about 100 questions in here, but we are approaching the hour time limit. So I think what would be best is if we sort of spend time evaluating the questions after the webinar, and if there are things we were not able to get to, then I'm going to put up our contact information, and you can feel free to reach out to us, and we can also try to send out some additional answers to questions when we send out the webinar. As I mentioned, the webinar has been recorded. We will send it out to everyone. So I think at this point, Sharon, I am going to take the control back because I did want to go ahead and show a couple additional resources that the Better Business Bureau has put together, and then I'll leave everyone with our contact information as well.
And Juliana, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, and I thank you for allowing us to do this presentation. But I will say, if you have questions that are maybe specific, feel free to send them to me at sharon.harvey@sba.gov, and it may take me a day or two to get to you, depending on how complex your question is. I may have to send it up, but if you have any serious questions, you can go ahead and send them to me, and then Juliana can continue to compile her list of questions.
Yes, so the information on the screen is both Sharon's contact information as well as mine. But again, we'll send this out to you, so you will have this also. And then we did want to go ahead and provide you with some additional resources. The Better Business Bureau, as an entire system, has been working tirelessly to try to continue to provide you with as much information and as many resources as possible. So here are a couple websites that everyone can check out. But thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will try to get to all these questions and get this out to you as quickly as possible. Thank you so much.